Your soulmate needs to talk to you immediately. Something big just happened. Don't skip. Listen carefully. This message is for you, because something happened today that your soulmate never expected. Not something they planned. Not something they prepared for. Not something they saw coming. Yet it completely changed the direction of their thoughts. And listen to this. The day started like every other day. Nothing felt unusual. Nothing seemed different. The morning arrived. Responsibilities waited. Plans moved forward. Everything appeared ordinary. Yet sometimes the most important moments begin in the middle of ordinary days. Because your heart needs this right now, because life rarely announces its biggest lessons before they arrive. Your soulmate was about to learn one. And listen to this. At first, they were focused on everything they normally focus on. Work. Responsibilities. Goals. Plans. The future. The endless list of things demanding attention. Their mind was occupied. Busy. Distracted. Yet beneath all of that activity, something unexpected was quietly taking shape. Something they couldn't see yet. Something they couldn't explain. Because your heart needs this right now, because important realizations often begin before we recognize them. Your soulmate was approaching one. And listen to this. As the hours passed, something unusual happened. A memory appeared. A simple memory. Not dramatic. Not extraordinary. Just a small moment from the past. Yet for some reason, it felt different. It stayed in their thoughts longer than expected. And then another memory appeared. Then another. Then another. Because your heart needs this right now, because certain memories return when they have something important to teach us. Your soulmate was beginning to listen. And listen to this. At first, they tried to ignore it. After all, everyone remembers things from time to time. Everyone reflects occasionally. Everyone revisits old moments. Yet these memories felt connected. Almost like they were trying to reveal something. Almost like they were pointing toward a larger truth. Because your heart needs this right now, because understanding often arrives through reflection. Your soulmate was beginning to understand. And listen to this. The deeper they reflected, the more they noticed a pattern. The memories weren't focused on achievements. They weren't focused on success. They weren't focused on possessions. Instead, they all seemed connected to people. Connections. Conversations. Shared experiences. Moments of understanding. Moments of support. Moments of genuine emotion. Because your heart needs this right now, because the things that matter most often have nothing to do with material success. Your soulmate was realizing that. And listen to this. As the realization grew stronger, they started asking themselves questions. Questions they had been too busy to ask before. Questions about what truly mattered. Questions about what brought genuine meaning into their life. Questions about what they would remember years from now. Because your heart needs this right now, because meaningful questions often lead to meaningful discoveries. Your soulmate was making those discoveries. And listen to this. One question stood out more than any other. A question so simple that it almost seemed obvious, yet powerful enough to stop them completely. The question was, what are the things I value most but rarely stop to appreciate? The moment that question appeared, everything slowed down. Because suddenly they realized something. There were many things in life they appreciated. But there were also many things they had quietly taken for granted. Because your heart needs this right now, because appreciation often begins when awareness grows. Your soulmate's awareness was growing. And listen to this. The more they thought about it, the more emotional the realization became. Not because something bad happened. Not because they were afraid. Because gratitude was beginning to replace distraction. And gratitude changes everything. The way you see the past. The way you see the present. The way you see the future. Because your heart needs this right now, because gratitude reveals value that was always there. Your soulmate was finally seeing that value. And listen to this. As the day continued, another realization appeared. A realization that immediately captured their attention. For years, they had been focused on reaching the next goal. Solving the next problem. Preparing for the next challenge. Yet while looking ahead, they sometimes forgot to appreciate what already existed. The people. The memories. The experiences. The connections. Because your heart needs this right now, because life isn't only about what comes next. It's also about appreciating what already matters. Your soulmate was learning that lesson. And listen to this. The realization became impossible to ignore. Something important had happened. Not outside of them. Inside of them. A shift in perspective. A shift in priorities. A shift in understanding. And once that shift occurred, they couldn't stop thinking about it. Because your heart needs this right now, because perspective changes the way we experience everything. Your soulmate's perspective was changing. And listen to this. For the first time in a long while, they stopped rushing. Stopped worrying. Stopped focusing entirely on the future. Instead, they allowed themselves to appreciate the present moment. To appreciate the people who mattered. To appreciate the experiences that shaped them. To appreciate the journey itself. Because your heart needs this right now, because appreciation creates peace where pressure once existed. Your soulmate was beginning to feel that peace. And listen to this. The more they reflected, the clearer everything became. The big thing that happened wasn't an event. It wasn't an announcement. It wasn't a surprise from the outside world. It was a realization. A realization powerful enough to change the way they viewed their entire life. And they knew they couldn't keep it to themselves. Because your heart needs this right now, because some lessons feel too important not to share. Your soulmate felt that importance. And listen to this. Before the day ended, one final thought remained. A thought they knew they would remember for a very long time. The thought was, sometimes the most important things in life are the things we forget to appreciate until we stop and truly notice them. The moment that truth settled into their heart, everything felt different. The future felt brighter. The present felt richer. The memories felt more meaningful. Because your heart needs this right now, because awareness transforms ordinary moments into extraordinary ones. Your soulmate had experienced that transformation. Don't skip. Listen carefully. This message is for you, because after the first realization appeared, your soulmate thought it would eventually fade away. They assumed it was simply one of those passing thoughts that seems important for a few minutes and then disappears. They expected life to continue normally. They expected their focus to return to work, responsibilities, and future plans. Yet something unexpected happened. The realization refused to leave. And listen to this. No matter what they focused on, the thought kept returning. While they worked. While they rested. While they planned. While they reflected. The same feeling remained quietly present in the background. Because your heart needs this right now, because some realizations return repeatedly when they carry an important message. Your soulmate was beginning to understand that message. And listen to this. At first, they tried to explain it logically. Maybe they were simply feeling emotional. Maybe they were tired. Maybe they were overthinking. Maybe they were looking too deeply into ordinary experiences. Yet every explanation felt incomplete. Because the feeling remained. The awareness remained. The understanding remained. Because your heart needs this right now, because truth often remains long after excuses disappear. Your soulmate could no longer ignore it. And listen to this. As the day continued, they found themselves thinking about the journey they had traveled so far. The challenges they faced. The lessons they learned. The people they met. The moments that shaped them. And suddenly something became obvious. The memories that mattered most weren't connected to accomplishments. They were connected to emotions. To relationships. To meaningful experiences. Because your heart needs this right now, because the things that leave the deepest marks on our lives are often emotional rather than material. Your soulmate was recognizing those marks. And listen to this. The more they reflected, the more another question appeared. A question that immediately demanded attention. The question was, why do certain people remain in our hearts long after ordinary moments pass? The thought stayed with them. Because the answer seemed important. Because the answer seemed personal. Because the answer seemed connected to everything they had been realizing. Because your heart needs this right now, because powerful questions often lead us toward powerful truths. Your soulmate was moving closer to one. And listen to this. The answer didn't arrive immediately. Instead, it appeared slowly. Piece by piece. Memory by memory. Realization by realization. They began understanding that some people leave impressions that become part of our story. Part of our growth. Part of our understanding of life. Part of who we become. Because your heart needs this right now, because meaningful connections influence us more deeply than we often realize. Your soulmate was finally seeing that influence. And listen to this. For a long time, they measured importance by obvious things. Achievements. Success. Progress. Goals reached. Dreams accomplished. Yet this realization challenged all of that. Because suddenly they understood something different. Some of life's most valuable experiences cannot be measured. You cannot count them. You cannot calculate them. You simply feel them. Because your heart needs this right now, because meaning often exists beyond numbers and achievements. Your soulmate was discovering that meaning. And listen to this. The realization grew stronger every hour. The people who made them laugh during difficult times. The people who offered support. The people who created unforgettable memories. The people who influenced their perspective. Those people mattered. More than they had fully acknowledged before. Because your heart needs this right now, because gratitude often begins when we recognize hidden value. Your soulmate was becoming grateful. And listen to this. As evening approached, another realization appeared. One that immediately changed the way they viewed everything. The realization was: life moves faster than we think. Days become weeks. Weeks become months. Months become years. And before we know it, entire chapters have passed. The thought felt powerful. Because suddenly appreciation felt urgent. Because suddenly gratitude felt important. Because suddenly the present moment felt precious. Because your heart needs this right now, because awareness of time often teaches us what truly matters. Your soulmate was learning that lesson. And listen to this. For the first time in a very long while, they stopped focusing on what was missing. They stopped focusing on future worries. They stopped focusing on unanswered questions. Instead, they focused on what already existed. The memories. The lessons. The connections. The people. The experiences. Because your heart needs this right now, because appreciation grows when attention shifts toward what already matters. Your soulmate was making that shift. And listen to this. The more they reflected, the clearer everything became. The big thing that happened wasn't an event. It wasn't an announcement. It wasn't a surprise from the outside world. It was a realization powerful enough to change their perspective forever. A realization that made them appreciate life more deeply. A realization that made them value meaningful connections more than ever before. A realization that refused to leave their mind because it was true. Because your heart needs this right now, because some truths arrive quietly yet change everything. Your soulmate had discovered one. And listen to this. Before the night ended, one final question appeared. A question that would lead directly to the biggest realization of all. The question was: if life is shaped by meaningful moments and meaningful people, have I fully appreciated them? The moment that question appeared, everything became silent. Because they already knew the answer. And that answer was about to change everything. Don't skip. Listen carefully. This message is for you, because after hours of reflection, after every memory had been revisited, and after every question had been examined, your soulmate finally reached a moment they could no longer avoid. A moment of complete honesty. A moment that felt both surprising and inevitable. A moment that changed the way they viewed everything. And listen to this. For a long time, they believed they understood what mattered most in life. They believed they knew their priorities. They believed they knew what deserved their attention. Yet the realization that appeared today challenged all of those assumptions. Not dramatically. Not suddenly. Quietly. Powerfully. Because your heart needs this right now, because some of life's most important lessons arrive in silence. Your soulmate was experiencing one of those lessons. And listen to this. The question from earlier continued returning. Have I fully appreciated the people and moments that truly matter? The more they thought about it, the harder it became to answer. Because deep down, they knew the truth. There were things they appreciated. There were people they valued. There were memories they treasured. Yet they hadn't always expressed that appreciation. They hadn't always stopped long enough to recognize how important those things had become. Because your heart needs this right now, because gratitude often grows stronger when we become fully aware of what we have. Your soulmate was becoming aware. And listen to this. As they reflected, memory after memory surfaced. Moments of support. Moments of encouragement. Moments of laughter. Moments of understanding. Moments that once seemed ordinary. Yet looking back now, those moments felt extraordinary. Not because the events themselves were extraordinary. Because of how meaningful they had become. Because your heart needs this right now, because meaning is often discovered long after a moment has passed. Your soulmate was discovering that meaning. And listen to this. The realization grew stronger. The more they looked back, the more obvious something became. Life wasn't defined by the biggest achievements. It wasn't defined by the most impressive accomplishments. It wasn't defined by material success. Instead, many of the memories they cherished most were connected to people. To relationships. To emotional experiences. To meaningful connections. Because your heart needs this right now, because people often become the most valuable part of our story. Your soulmate was finally recognizing that value. And listen to this. For the first time in a very long while, they allowed themselves to slow down completely. No rushing. No planning. No worrying about tomorrow. Just reflection. Just honesty. Just appreciation. And in that quiet moment, another truth appeared. A truth so simple that it almost felt obvious. Yet powerful enough to change everything. The truth was, some things matter more than I realized. The moment those words appeared, something shifted. Because suddenly everything made sense. The emotions. The memories. The gratitude. The realization. Because your heart needs this right now, because clarity often arrives when we stop complicating what is already true. Your soulmate was finding that clarity. And listen to this. As evening approached, they began seeing their life through a completely different perspective. The future still mattered. Goals still mattered. Dreams still mattered. But they no longer seemed like the only things that mattered. Now they understood something deeper. Success means very little if you forget to appreciate the journey. And the journey is made meaningful by the people who become part of it. Because your heart needs this right now, because appreciation gives purpose to everything else. Your soulmate was discovering that purpose. And listen to this. The realization continued expanding. Every meaningful conversation suddenly felt more valuable. Every shared memory felt richer. Every lesson felt more important. Not because those things had changed. Because their perspective had changed. And perspective changes everything. Because your heart needs this right now, because a single realization can completely transform the way we see our lives. Your soulmate was experiencing that transformation. And listen to this. Then came the discovery that changed their heart. A discovery they never expected. A discovery they couldn't ignore. The discovery was: the things I treasure most are not the things I own. They are the experiences I've shared. The memories I've created. The people who helped shape my journey. The moment they admitted that truth, a wave of gratitude washed over them. Because suddenly they understood something they had overlooked for far too long. The most meaningful parts of life cannot be purchased. They cannot be measured. They cannot be replaced. Because your heart needs this right now, because life's greatest treasures are often emotional rather than material. Your soulmate finally understood that. And listen to this. The more they reflected, the more emotional the realization became. Not sad. Not fearful. Grateful. Deeply grateful. Grateful for the people who made difficult days easier. Grateful for the memories that still brought smiles. Grateful for the experiences that shaped them. Grateful for every meaningful connection that helped make them who they are today. Because your heart needs this right now, because gratitude transforms the way we see the past. Your soulmate's past suddenly looked brighter. And listen to this. For a while, they simply sat with the realization. Allowing it to settle. Allowing it to grow. Allowing themselves to fully understand what had happened. Because something important had happened. Not outside of them. Inside of them. A shift in awareness. A shift in values. A shift in understanding. And those kinds of shifts last forever. Because your heart needs this right now, because some lessons become permanent once they are truly understood. Your soulmate knew this lesson would stay with them. And listen to this. Before the night ended, one final realization appeared. A realization that connected everything together. Every memory. Every lesson. Every question. Every emotion. The realization was: the people and experiences that touch our hearts become part of who we are. The moment that truth settled into place, everything became clear. The confusion disappeared. The uncertainty faded. The message they wanted to share finally revealed itself. Because your heart needs this right now, because understanding often arrives all at once after a long period of reflection. Your soulmate had finally arrived at that understanding. And now they know there is only one final thing left to reveal. One final truth. One final message. One final realization that explains why they needed to talk to you immediately in the first place. Don't skip. Listen carefully. This message is for you, because after an entire day of reflection, After every memory had resurfaced. After every lesson had been reconsidered. After every question had finally been answered. Your soulmate reached the moment that changed everything. The moment they had been moving toward all along. The moment that explained why they suddenly felt such urgency to speak. And listen to this. The night had become quiet. The distractions were gone. The responsibilities could wait. For the first time all day, there was nothing left to focus on except the truth. And the truth was impossible to ignore. Because your heart needs this right now, because some realizations become so clear that they change the way we see our entire life. Your soulmate had reached that point. And listen to this. For years, they believed important changes would arrive through dramatic events. A major opportunity. A huge achievement. A life-changing surprise. Something obvious. Something impossible to miss. Yet the biggest thing that happened today wasn't dramatic at all. It happened quietly. Inside their heart. Inside their mind. Inside the way they viewed their life. Because your heart needs this right now, because the most powerful transformations often happen internally long before anyone else notices them. Your soulmate experienced one of those transformations. And listen to this. As they looked back over their journey, they noticed something remarkable. Many of the moments they once considered ordinary now seemed extraordinary. Simple conversations. Shared laughter. Unexpected support. Moments of understanding. Moments of connection. Moments that once seemed small now felt incredibly valuable. Because your heart needs this right now, because time often reveals the true importance of things we once overlooked. Your soulmate was seeing that importance clearly. And listen to this. The realization continued growing stronger. Every memory seemed connected by a common thread. Every lesson pointed toward the same truth. Every reflection arrived at the same destination. Life becomes meaningful because of the experiences we share and the people who touch our hearts. Because your heart needs this right now, because meaning is created through connection. Your soulmate finally understood that. And listen to this. As the hours passed, another realization appeared. A realization that immediately changed their perspective. For so long, they had focused on what came next. The next goal. The next challenge. The next achievement. The next chapter. Yet today taught them something different. The future matters. But appreciating the present matters too. Because your heart needs this right now, because life isn't only lived in future plans. It's lived in present moments. Your soulmate finally recognized those moments. And listen to this. The more they reflected, the more grateful they became. Grateful for lessons learned. Grateful for challenges overcome. Grateful for growth. Grateful for memories. Grateful for every person who contributed something meaningful to their journey. Because your heart needs this right now, because gratitude reveals blessings that routine often hides. Your soulmate's gratitude was growing stronger with every passing hour. And listen to this. Then came the realization that connected everything. The realization that explained why they felt such urgency. The realization that felt bigger than anything else. The realization was, I have spent so much time chasing what comes next that I haven't fully appreciated what already exists. The moment those words appeared, everything changed. The pressure softened. The worries felt smaller. The appreciation grew larger. Because suddenly they understood something important. The most meaningful parts of life aren't always waiting somewhere in the future. Many of them already exist right now. Because your heart needs this right now, because awareness transforms everything it touches. Your soulmate had become aware. And listen to this. For the first time in a long while, they stopped measuring life only by accomplishments. Instead, they measured it by moments. By growth. By gratitude. By connection. By meaning. And what they discovered surprised them. Their life contained far more meaning than they had realized. Because your heart needs this right now, because we often underestimate the value already present in our lives. Your soulmate had underestimated it too. And listen to this. As the night grew later, one final thought remained. A thought that felt powerful enough to remember forever. The thought was, the people, memories, and experiences that shape our hearts deserve our appreciation before it's too late. The realization felt simple. Yet life-changing. Because suddenly appreciation no longer felt optional. It felt necessary. Because your heart needs this right now, because gratitude creates richness that success alone cannot provide. Your soulmate was experiencing that richness. And listen to this. The big thing that happened today wasn't a shocking secret. It wasn't a dramatic announcement. It wasn't something the outside world would even notice. It was something far more important. A complete shift in perspective. A deeper understanding of what truly matters. A renewed appreciation for meaningful connections and meaningful experiences. Because your heart needs this right now, because sometimes the biggest moments of our lives happen quietly within us. Your soulmate experienced one of those moments. And listen to this. The message they urgently wanted to share was simple. Don't wait for a perfect moment to appreciate what matters. Don't wait for tomorrow to recognize value. Don't wait for life to remind you how important meaningful connections truly are. The moment they understood that truth, everything felt different. The future felt brighter. The present felt richer. The memories felt more precious. Because your heart needs this right now, because appreciation transforms ordinary life into something extraordinary. Your soulmate finally discovered that. And listen to this. As their reflections came to an end, one final realization settled deeply into their heart. A realization they knew would stay with them forever. The realization was, life becomes beautiful when we stop rushing past what matters and start appreciating it fully. And that was the big thing that happened. Not around them. Within them. A realization powerful enough to change the way they see everything.